What's up, y'all? This is the Relationships and Chill podcast, and in today's episode, we will be talking about his needs, her desires. What does a man need from his woman to stay focused and to stay involved in the relationship? And what does a woman desire from her man to keep her respecting him and to see him as the man that he really is? Stay tuned.
You're listening to Relationships and Chill, the podcast for singles and couples about how to find and cultivate the relationship you've always dreamed of, based on trust and honest communication. Why waste your time going through the typical dating obstacle course, only to end up with drama, jealousy, and heartbreak, when you can find the love of your life and live happily ever after? So sit back, chill, and get ready to make relationships great again.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Relationships and Chill. I'm your host, R. Anthony, and my co-host, Christina Latrice, is on the scene. Say what's up, Christina Latrice.
Hey, everybody.
Give you a little round of applause, too. Where's my round of applause stuff at? There we go, right there. All right, so I'm laughing, but this is not going to be a funny podcast. We're going to have some humor in it, obviously, but I'm working on some stuff. And in the process of working on it, and I've been thinking about this for years and years and years. And when you think about relationships, they're so similar across the board. When you think about the problems, because what I've been doing over the years is just kind of coaching and working with people in their relationships and giving them advice and seeing different things as you meet different types of relationships. Now, culturally, it's a little bit different too, because cross-culturally, they have similar issues. However, some cultures have a better structure than others. They have a better structure, but it doesn't mean that resentment and things aren't there. That's the trick. See, people think that just because another race or another culture has a better rate of staying together, that they have better relationships. A lot of them just stay together because tradition. They hate each other. They don't want to be with each other. But traditionally, they just stay together because that's what their culture did. That's the example that their culture sets, that this is something that you're going to do for the rest of your life. Whereas here, especially here in the United States, it's kind of like dating with a contract. Like you have a permanent contract that you can just nullify anytime. And that's what it's like here in the United States. It's like you can date and then you can get married and then you could divorce. You can, not be together anymore. Just as simple as that, pretty much. But culturally, our families are kind of on the fence. Meaning that in other cultures, they probably have a way to say, okay, we're going to mediate between you guys. But ultimately, we've been together for 50 years. So you got the older grandparents, and then you have the parents, and then you have the children, the grandchildren, or, your current relationship, your age group relationship. And you can go to 2 levels of marriage and get advice. Another thing, too, I was thinking about is rites of passage, because here in America, we have no rites of passages for young men to become men, and a male structure so that men can bounce ideas on when they're having problems that they can't necessarily express to a woman. They go to their peers, people who have this similar experience, so they don't get really any good advice. But in a lot of other cultures, you can go to your elders and the male community and talk and express yourself. And so you can get out the things that they will understand because they're men. They go through similar things. But here in our culture, most relationships, they go to the woman. So it makes the man look a little bit weaker, at least from his perspective, at least from his feeling. He feels weak by talking to you, the woman, about his issues and the thing that he has going on, when it's really just something that a man. So ultimately, the rites of passage and a male structure will keep a male in the male place as it relates to the actual home, the actual smaller unit family. It keeps him in a position of respect. But I don't know, because I think it's weird when you think about it. Do women really? Well, two things. This episode, the reason why I wanted to do this episode is because of that. Because men have a certain need that he doesn't necessarily, he got needs that he can get from the woman, you, but there's other needs outside of that unit. Just like for women have a really good structure as far as like female friends.
Mm-hmm.
You got different demographics. You can talk to younger women, you can talk to women your age, and you also have a older women group that you can go to your aunts and your mom and all that kind of stuff. And you could talk to them about certain issues that you wouldn't necessarily talk to your man about.
Right.
Men really don't have that as it relates to interpersonal relationships. I do, because I have my mentor. I have my dad also. We've developed a great friendship, but I don't really go to anybody but my mentor and myself.
Right.
As it relates to that kind of stuff. You know, because a lot of times when you've developed to a certain point, you can't talk to your friends anymore.
Right.
You can't really go to them and ask them questions because they don't even understand where you're coming from as it relates to that problem.
Exactly.
So you got to kind of use what I like to do really is I use like a workaround. I might get some from here, something from there, something from there, but I know them well enough to know what parts I can tell them about. So I think that's something that a lot of men don't really have that. I'm talking about someone with a good foundation, not, Bobo them and you know what I mean, their homeboys that, still doing the same things. I mean, like dudes that's actually progressing, that's moving and working towards something. Men, we don't really have a lot of that in our lives.
Stop talking to Big Perk, fellas.
Yeah, Big Perk. Good old Big Perk. Big Perk is for the children. So this episode, I just wanted to kind of delve into his needs, her desires, and it's different because I think men know a woman's needs in the sense that you're going to tell them. You're going to tell them what you feel like you need. But the thing is, do you know what he needs? For one thing. But even if you tell me what you need, I still have to know what you're desiring out above your needs. Okay. Meaning that if a woman tells me she needs me to be home at a certain time and, she wants me to be home because she's making dinner or whatnot. And so I can I'll obviously make that, two things. I can either communicate to her why I can't be there at that time, or I can actually surprise her and come in early. Okay. Does that make sense? Like the needs, and I'm saying this is kind of I'm working through and trying to get this particular episode to a certain point, because if a woman has a desire that she wants to be this place in the relationship, she's going to have to find the need of that man. Now, if you're already married, for instance, if you guys are dating, here's what I'm saying. If two people are already dating and they've been dating for a while, and the woman is the one typically that wants to be married, but the man is the one that's dragging his foot. The woman desires to be married. Mm-hmm. The man is needing he's needing something to get to the place to where he feels he's ready to be married. Now, all things considered equal, because I know there's scenarios where people, where women don't want to be married and, the men are the more so one that wants to push marriage. Mm-hmm. But typically speaking, especially here in America, women are typically the ones that are pulling the man to the altar. Okay. They're the ones that's typically dragging men to the altar. But it's a desire. It's the desires, and the desires are based on influence.
Well, we dragging them by their ear?
I don't know what y'all dragging them by. I don't know what women are dragging men by, but a lot of it, you don't want to complain yourself into a marriage. You don't want to, you know what I mean? Because that will set a tone for the relationship. That's first and foremost. But it's like if you can understand the desires of that woman, and you understand that why she wants to be married,
Mm-hmm.
then it could work. You can work with that woman as if you know why she wants to get married.
But
And I ain't
some of
talking
us
about,
don't even know the answer to that.
that's what I'm saying. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Okay.
And with a man, you have to know what that specific man needs. Like, for instance, you know how society tells a woman it's like men are easy.
Mm-hmm.
They're simple. All they need is sex, food, and I forgot the other thing. Sex, food, and whatever else. It's just a list of like 5 things. Whereas like with the dude, it's like 155 things just for the
Quiet.
intro. But I think women are a lot. They're not as complicated as society and as people tell. I think women are more simple than men are
Oh
in that
man,
regard.
yeah.
I think women. The problem is the influence, and that's where I'm getting at with the desires, because the desires create the influence creates the desires, and women will want things not even knowing why they want them. You know, a woman will have a closet full of shoes, closet full of purses,
Mm-hmm.
and want to go get another purse. It's not because she needs another purse. It's because she wants and desires another purse.
I've done that, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly. Whereas with a man can pretty much live off the basic necessities. You know, just some cereal, something in the freezer, and something to drink, and he'll be good. And a lot of women need so much excitement. Women need excitement if they're in the influential. It depends on what they're being influenced by. But if women are being influenced by like real housewives and stuff like that, reality TV, you will have a lot to deal with. Every day it'll be something new that she's wanting, that she feels she's not getting, even if she doesn't necessarily express it verbally. A lot of women, their cues are changing in a systematic way. It's not like a obvious change. It's not an overt change. It's like it's just a change, a subtle change.
Okay.
Like little by little, subtle change, and next thing you know, the relationship is all over the place, and you're just not doing enough.
Yeah.
So that goes to the desires, and with the man, it's about the necessity. Like, what does he need from you in order to say this is why. Another reason why I'm saying this, because men have a necessity. So I'm just going to get to it. Men have a necessity. Men have a need. We were created a certain way. Women were created a certain way. We were created and we were designed for work. Now, I personally believe in the scriptures. I believe in the Bible. So, but I am not going to talk to you guys about the Bible in a typical English perspective. I'm going to talk to you guys from a scriptural perspective, from the cultural perspective of the scriptures, not the cultural perspective of today. But because the cultural influence will make you read even the scriptures wrong. If you look at it from our culture and our perspective, you will absolutely read the Bible 100% wrong. So my approach to reading the Bible is to understand the culture of the writers. The writers who wrote each particular book had a certain cultural reference and frame of mind that they were dealing with at that time, and they had to communicate the scriptures or what was spoken to them or what was shown to them in a way that the people of that time could understand it.
Exactly.
Not necessarily for us. That's why we have translations, because you have to bring it to your culture so that it's culturally referenced and culturally understood from the perspective of the time that we live in.
That's right.
But as you begin to study and learn and dig deeper into it, you start going to the language, because the language is what dictates. Now, this is kind of like a sidebar, but I'm just giving you the framework of why I'm about to say what I'm about to say. So as you go into the scriptures, you have to go into it from a linguistic perspective, and you have to go into it from a cultural perspective. So the culture that we live in now is not the culture that was living in then. The language that we speak now is not the language that they spoke then. And over time, whenever you have different cultural changes and shifts, the language changes. So even just if you think about it, 100 years ago, the way they spoke then is totally different from the way that we speak now. If you go back and read some of the books and literature from 100 years ago, you'll see the language is not the same. So you have to look up certain words that were popular at that particular time.
Right.
And that cultural influence, you have to see what the people deem more important than other things.
Mm-hmm.
Just like 100 years from now, the people, even like really 20 years ago, you didn't have the internet. So the culture has changed even from 20 years ago. You didn't have the internet as prevalent as it is now in 1998, when everybody had their baggy jackets and baggy jeans and carrying backpacks, even though you was out of school. It was summertime. You was carrying a backpack and a Walkman. Y'all remember the Walkmans?
Shoot.
Yeah, I think I had a tape deck at that time too. That was in like 98. I had a tape deck. I know I had a tape deck somewhere.
Yeah.
Anywho, the times change. The things change. The culture changed. The dynamics change. The language changed. The way we understand things change because we're referencing the cultural times. Now, as you get older, you have more to draw from because if you were born in the 80s, you got the 80s decade you can pull from. You got the 90s decade you can pull from. You got the early 2000s up to now. So you have about 40 years worth of stuff, even in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, and late 2000s. So you have more to pull from than somebody who's born in the early 2000s. You have more reference points. And so as you go back and you start looking at the reference points, the shifts, the changes, and the dynamics of cultural change and relationships and all the dynamic, one thing runs concurrent: the man and woman dynamic. Absolutely. It wasn't as bad, but there was always a male-female dynamic. And as you start seeing the dynamics of relationships and how, say, for instance, back in the 70s, your grandparents or great-grandparents, my great-grandparents stayed together until they died. My grandmother is single and she will not remarry because she feels as though she's married to the man that my grandfather for life, for her life. That's just that's how they looked at it. Mm-hmm. And as you go further back, you start, it's different aspects and different facets to it based on the culture and based on the influences at that time. But at that time, my grandfather and great grandmother, they believed in staying together to the end of their life. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. People always say how it used to be, how relationships used to be. My great grandfather, after he passed, we figured out that there was some more grandkids running around, or some more kids running around.
That's how it used to be.
That's how it is today too.
That's how it is today too.
But it's a little bit more. It's actually a little bit better in that regard because some guys will have a family right down the street. And,
exactly. That's a little Momo.
Yeah, that's a little. Look just like you. Look just
that's Big
like
Perk.
you.
That's what I said.
Walk
Don't
like
be
you, everything. And his mom is single. You know what I mean? So, people can try to deny it all you want, but sexuality it rules, and it will always rule as far as human nature is concerned.
And it did back then too.
It did. It's always have. It
always have. People be friends talking about some. Well, we done got more sexual. No, we ain't. We ain't got no more sexual than what they were.
Nah, and ain't nothing new. Like women have been sleeping with men been sleeping with men. And,
exactly.
And it's nothing new. It's just more overt now. It's just more obvious now.
No, it's media size. We got it on
true.
TV. That's what makes it different.
Yeah, media definitely promotes it a lot more. And that's the thing about media. But nevertheless, certain things will always remain the same is the point that I was trying to make about that. Certain things will always remain the same. Even desires and even needs. Now, going back to the scriptural perspective that I was going to give, the man was created first. He was created in the garden. Now, I know there's a lot of Gnostic belief systems and, all that kind of stuff and things that predate, but I just want to start from something. I know there's like a million other things that you can reference and say this and that, but when you start looking at it from the perspective that I'm about to share with you guys, you'll actually see it a little bit different. The dynamic that I've became aware of as it relates to Adam and Eve and the story of Adam and Eve is still the story that runs today. Now, I can't tell you what was going on in the 70s and 60s and the 1500s as far as like how they were thinking exactly. I can't give you that, but I can give you some clues and some hints because we got here from somewhere. And if you trace back to if you look at what's going on today, it didn't just start today. It started somewhere else. So we trace the bloodline, we trace things backwards, and we can work from there based on what we observed today. Okay, so so now going back to the beginning where Adam and Eve were created. Adam was created first. Then after some time, Eve was created. Now, I know you probably think it's some time. I'll have to talk to you guys about that another episode. So Adam was created first, and after a few days, he was given something to do, which is to work. The first thing that Adam did was work. And in the process of working, the first thing he was told to do was till the ground, to work the ground, to facilitate and manage the ground. All right, now, after he did that for a little while, the next thing he was told to do was to name the animals. Name the animals, okay. Boom, boom, boom. This is this. Through examination, he was able to identify that this animal would be doing this. This animal is this because it does this. By observation. Now, the reason why that's important is because when the woman showed up on the scene and when he went into a deep sleep and he woke up, she was there. After he examined her, it was understood that this is something for me. And this is how you know he examined the animals, because he was able to recognize and identify this was something different and unique from anything that I've seen before. Mm-hmm. So, preceding that, it was understood by the Most High that it's not good for man to be alone. I'm going to create a helper. I'm going to create someone that can fulfill a void that he doesn't even know he has. Wow. He doesn't even know he has this void yet. He is just doing what I put him here to do. He's working. He's naming animals. That's what he's doing. All right. Now the woman comes along and she's like, I'm just here now. So imagine you just being dropped off in a place and all of a sudden this person that looks different, but I don't even know if she ever saw her reflection. So it was just a matter of like, who is this guy going to identify me as? Right. And what he identified her as is what she became. Mm-hmm. Now, if you bring that up to speed, whatever men at large identify women as, they objectify women as that, or they empower women as that. Not saying that women don't empower themselves, but men were given the task of naming and identifying things. Okay. Like I said, at large, not necessarily just a man that you meet out on the streets, but at large, men are as a whole identify and basically categorize things as they see fit. Okay. And you know this because women don't typically have a lot of things. Now this is weird. This is weird we say, but women typically gravitate towards things that men are interested in. Like I remember years ago, women used to complain about football and how men would be just watching football all the time. Now all of a sudden you see so many women into football. Yeah. Yeah. You see so many women into video games. That's true. I mean, it's females that know more about football than me, because I'm not a football guy. I'm a basketball guy. Right. But you got women that are interested in a lot of those things. You don't really see men taking interest in women things. Right. Have you? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong.
No, I think you're about right about that, because I know I take a lot of interest in stuff that my man is interested in.
Well, I mean, men in general, not necessarily him, but just men in general. Like if a whole lot of men are interested in, let me think of something. Whatever men are interested in, mm-hmm. it just become like, okay, like your man's favorite shirt. Like my woman will literally take my shirt and wear it like it's her.
Me too. Oh, I love it.
I will never take her shirt But it's innate.
No.
It's inherent. It's not something that I even have to think about. I would never wear her shirt,
Right.
but
Right.
she feels connected
I
with
do.
something that I do or I am.
Yeah. That
She
is
feels
so
connected
true.
to me,
Oh my goodness.
which brings me to the point that women were designed for relationships. Men were designed for work.
Wow.
We are efficient at naming and identifying and categorizing things as a whole. Not saying every man has developed to that point, but just if you look at it, men kind of lead the charge in the family unit and in the societal unit. So I don't know. I mean, because I'm only saying that because, and I'm not being sexist or anything like that, but I'm just going through my observation of inventors and things like that really pioneered certain industries. I'm talking about like Steve Jobs. I'm talking about like Bill Gates.
Gates.
I'm
Yeah.
talking about, Warren Buffett, not really because he's, but like, what's the guy, Jack Ma, who created AliExpress and Alibaba. Just those guys like that, they're like the wealthiest men on earth. And Oprah's wealthy too, but she more so uses platforms that's already available. These guys
Right.
are creating platforms, is what I'm saying, and not
Don't forget
comparing the
young
two
Mark
because it
Zuckerberg.
works. Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg,
Mhm.
the Twitter people. I think I think one's a lady. But and not to say that women don't create or nothing like that. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm talking about generally speaking, and it works better. It works better because if all of us are trying to do the same thing, one of us is not needed.
Right.
If we're trying to do the exact same thing and the exact job as each other, one of us is not necessary. But that creates necessity when I have something and you can offer something that's different, that's unique. And that's what men need. Men need something unique and different. When a
Right.
woman is using the male perspective to do and think that that is what a man wants and needs, then in a man's mind, it's not necessary because
Right.
I already do this. I'm already in this position. So if you try to come and take this position from me, then I'm not even necessary. And women do it too. I know a lot of women right now. And I tell my friends this. The moment a woman feels as though she's a better man than you, the relationship is over.
It's over.
It's a wrap. Like if she don't feel like you doing and stepping up, because it's really a good thing that women do this because it makes a man step up even further and better.
Yeah.
If he's the type of man that does that, it shows a man where he really is. So I don't care what my woman, I'm going to always be a step, 15 steps ahead of her because I'm going to study, I'm going to read, I'm going to make sure that I am ahead.
Right.
And it's okay to compete as long as it's good things. We don't compete about what we do on a daily basis or what she does or what I don't do.
Right.
I mean competing as far as like I have to continuously grow to become a better man for
Right.
our family, for our relationship.
Exactly.
Because anytime a woman feels as though she's catching up, the moment she feels as though she's catching up, women, you know how y'all are. Y'all are try to like see if y'all can get one over.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like y'all say little stuff to see if y'all can outsmart him, outwit him using his same tactics.
You got that right because we competitive too.
Exactly, but there's different types of competition. There's good competition and there's combative competition where you guys are fighting against what you ain't doing and what that person's not doing. Then that becomes pointless.
That's pointless.
But if I'm like, man, my woman is growing, like she's learning, and now she gonna try to out logic me. Ain't that something?
Ain't that
and now I got to go back to the drawing board and say,
Yeah.
okay, what can I do different? What can I learn? What can I see different?
Exactly.
And then come back to it and see when that time comes. And it's a fun thing. It's funny if you don't look at it you don't look at it from a defense mechanism where you have to be ultra manly, but that's where the communication aspect comes in at. So I hope that makes sense, and I'm not trying to offend. Obviously, I'm being very realistic, and I'm being very fair. But I also see that it doesn't have to be like a woman doesn't have to be what I am. Like it's okay if you're not what a man is. It's okay because that's what I'm here to do.
That's right.
But we got to figure out, what are you here to do?
Yes, please talk to us.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if we're going off the scriptures, then we have to solely listen and go by that. Now, if we're going off of what the world and what people, outside, and just using human philosophy and stuff like that and how people feel, then I can't have that conversation.
Okay.
But if we're going from a biblical perspective, then obviously the proof is in the pudding, the answer is in the question.
Got it.
In terms of why was woman created in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
And we could see that in Genesis, where the man was created at first, and then the woman was created to facilitate and to help and to replicate life.
Mm.
So without a woman, Adam would have died off by itself.
Okay.
There would be no need. It would have been a pointless exercise, because it would just been him and no replication.
Gotcha.
But when the woman was created, she was created to help Adam replicate and become like the Most High.
Mm.
That's a whole other concept,
That's pretty
because the Most High had the ability to create, and in the image of the Most High we were created, meaning that when the man and the woman were done and finished being created, now they were like in the image and likeness of the Most High.
Wow,
and
that's
not the other way around.
Beautifully put. That's something that's very different from the way I've ever heard it before. That was
Well, he
beautiful.
wasn't complete until the woman came. He wasn't made in the image until the woman came.
Okay.
When the woman appeared and they came together, now he was fulfilled, meaning he had the ability to procreate. He had the ability to replicate,
Right.
as opposed to just being an entity.
That's very powerful.
So, but a woman brings that ability to change, to progress, because it gave Adam the ability to progress past himself. Without a woman, none of this stuff would be necessary. None of these phones and internets, none of this stuff. Women bring the creative aspect out of a man.
Mm.
So if you're competing in that aspect, then you're going to stifle that creativity.
Right.
Because now he's having to compete with another masculine energy. And there's this fish, and I saw it on like a documentary a long time ago. And this fish lives somewhere in another part of the waters that I don't even know. But they're all female fish. It's just at a certain point, when one of the female fish starts to become more aggressive, she turns into a male.
Wow.
That female fish turns into a male, and it becomes the dominant fish in that particular pod. And as another fish becomes more aggressive than that previous female male fish, it now becomes the male, and that female that once male fish turns back into a female.
Wow.
So if you as a woman are trying to compete, it's either going to in one of two ways. You're either going to become more dominant, or he's going to seem like he's trying to control you.
Mm.
A lot of women think that that's what it is, but no, you're competing against a man, but now you can't redefine the rules of the game once you start playing it.
Mm.
So I don't know if this is making sense to y'all, but
It is.
we're kind of just
I know
through
in the animal kingdom, when one masculine energy battles another masculine energy, one is either going to be annihilated completely or severely wounded.
Mm-hmm.
There's not going to be two dwelling in the same place.
Unless they're beta males. But
this makes
but
a lot of sense.
in alpha stance, which all women want, there's only one.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Unless they got separate prize as far as lions and stuff is concerned. But as far as on a humanistic perspective, I think we're kind of onto something, because women redefine the rules a lot of the times of engagement.
Mm.
And it creates, even if the necessity is there, it's stifled. So even if I need you to be something, and we're in a competitive mind frame, then I'm not going to want to easily fulfill your desire. Because why would I fulfill the desires of somebody I'm competing with?
What do you feel about the feminine movement?
The
The
feminist movement.
feminist. Uh-huh.
I understand it. I understand that women have been, but a lot of it, I think, is just a lot of women doing what other women do, and that happens a lot of the times. But I think a lot of women have been treated wrong. You know, I think a lot of women have been treated wrong, but not necessarily by me. And I don't think overall by men in general. I think by a specific group of men, but I don't think women as a whole and men as a whole have been treating women wrong. I don't think that. I think overall, because realistically, the design is, it works if you do it right. But sometimes in anything, there's abuse. There's an abusive situation, and obviously, I don't agree with the abuse. But there is a structure to everything. And you have good women, you have women that ain't good. You have great men, good men, and you have men that are horrible.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so, but even on a tree, there's gonna be some bad apples, but the majority of the tree is gonna be good.
Right.
So I think the feminist movement, it has its pluses and it has its minuses as far as bringing awareness to it, but I think at the end of the day, it will never override nature. It can't override nature. No matter how strong it gets, the nature of a woman will always go back and revert back to what she is. But here's the trick. Here's the dilemma, though. Really, is it, if you're basing it on what has happened thus far, you're not progressing past this moment. Whereas if you're saying that men have done this up until this point, at that point when men are aware of it, they're changing. So the changes have already started to occur. But if you're basing it on previous and old information, then you're going to be behind again. You're going to continuously always be behind because of the changes that men are making as a result of being aware of the things that you're displeased with.
Okay.
So it's important to, from my perspective, it's important to understand that. You know, it's important to understand that nature will never be defeated. You can't defeat nature.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to get back to the nature of things and the nature of man and the nature of woman. And we got to figure out, what does it take to make this dynamic between a male and a female work? And I literally think it's in the first 3 chapters of Genesis.
Wow.
Because if you read it, and this is why I know it's true, because in Genesis 3, when the Most High was giving out the curses, it says that, of course, to the woman, you're going to have pain in child rearing, and your desire will be for your husband, but he will rule you, meaning he will always be ahead of you. He will always be the one that, basically, like I said, that is ahead of you. He's
leading.
Yeah. He will always lead you. And he'll always be faster on certain topics than you, because he's going to be more aware. And the secret to it is work. Design, work. Because that's the secret to this earth that we're living in, is work. And I know it sounds crazy, but when you work, think about it. The things that you learn, most of the things that you've ever learned, you learn through work. The things that you like, school is a form of work. It's just prepping you for the work.
Yeah.
You know, for work. So when you go into work and you're mining through information, but you don't know why you're using it. You don't know why you're learning this stuff. But at work, your job depends on it. Your job depends on what you know.
That's right. It does.
So you have to learn as much as you can through your work. Now, if you think about it, you're helping the company that you work for become better. So you're a helpmeet to that company. You see? And so what I did with my wife, I said, listen, if you want to, when you get here, because she's from Canada, I was like, we're working together. because I ain't gonna have nobody being a husband to my wife, meaning that the business tells her when and what time she can come in, what time she can get off, what time she can have her break, what time she can eat, what time, you know, all these different things that dictates her whole day, like what time she got to go to sleep because she got to be up. And what's left for me?
Exactly.
What's left for my relationship with her?
That's so hard. It's a
very
really,
difficult.
really hard thing to juggle. It is.
Oh yeah.
It is.
So I was like, nah, we ain't gonna do that. We not gonna go that route. We definitely gonna take a different route as it relates to our relationship. We gonna have it different to where this is the structure for us. We work together.
And y'all got one of the most beautiful relationships I've ever seen in my life.
Thank you.
And I think that's a huge contributing factor.
Oh yeah, I think so. I know it is.
Absolutely.
Just stepping out on faith. It wasn't easy, but you know, because I have a trucking company, but it wasn't easy. But I wanted to be the man for her, and that dependence on me and me. The thing about that is it made me become a better man, a better leader, a better worker, because I knew that it was dependent upon me, and it helped her trust me better because now she's dependent upon me and not her job, which creates that independence.
I can even tell you what I witnessed as your friend is that you became even more of a thinker. You begin to, you know, you've always been an avid reader, always, like that I know of. But you begin to gravitate to as much knowledge as possible. I mean, you would acquire as much of it as you can get, you know, when she came in your life. It was just like you couldn't get enough of it. I noticed that instantly when that woman came in your life. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it was a process though, and thank you. It was a process to get to that point, but to even get her to want to come here to do it that way. I mean, obviously at that point it was like we're gonna do this. We're gonna be together. So just come on, let's make it happen. Let's make it work. And we struggled, and but at the same time we struggled together, and that was the difference.
Right.
So you know, a lot of people they struggle separately, and then you know they're together, but they're struggling separately. But we struggle literally together. So that, I mean, that's the difference. And but she showed me in that process. And this is why I'm saying this, because my work provided the opportunity for us to grow together. The work that I was doing, the work that I was doing provided the opportunity for me and her and I to grow together because I saw the value in her ability to help me.
Wow.
And that's what a man needs. Now, will he recognize it and realize it initially? No, because if you're working a job, he's working a job, you're technically still dependent upon the job.
Right.
You're not depending upon your husband.
Right.
And if you're a man and you're not an entrepreneur, you don't have your own thing, you're dependent upon another entity to provide for you, even though you're working, but ultimately that work is telling you what to do, when you can do it, what time you can come in, what time you can go home, what time you got to take a break, what time you can go to the bathroom. I mean, you know, man, I mean, I just couldn't do it. And have a wife. I know that's a little harsh, but the American dream and the American society lies to us and paints a picture that this is what you're supposed to do. But if you look at how the relationships are struggling as a result, you'll see it makes perfect sense. It's connected. Yeah. And women are getting tired because they're like, I got to go to work. You got to go to work. I'm not going to listen to you. Why? We're doing the exact same thing.
Exact same thing.
And the frustration comes as a result of we don't have we don't have the original structure. Yeah. Meaning that, and as crazy as it sounds, like this is why literally her and our relationship worked, is because of that. Right. That was like one of the main goals, is that we wanted to work together.
That's right.
And we wanted to create something that was ours. Now, of course, you know, she was working for a little while. She was working up there. I was working here, and we were working together on coming to a point to where we can do what we're doing. Yeah. But that was the plan. And so if you don't even have a plan for that, then you're going to be
then
doing that forever and ever and ever,
exactly, exactly.
and wondering why it's not working, or why y'all keep having the same problems.
This way, a man has to be a good leader, though, because he's a planner. A good leader is going to plan.
But being an entrepreneur has taught me those things that are necessary to being a great leader.
That's right.
And being independent, because you'll become a better leader as you lead. You can't become a better leader not leading.
That's right.
You can't become a better entrepreneur working it for somebody.
That's right.
So in essence, like, we're all created to be entrepreneurs in that sense.
That's right.
Because I think the Most High created us to be independent.
Absolutely.
I think He created us to depend on Him and the skills that He's given us.
Absolutely.
So it's hard to do that when you're working a 9-to-5 or working a job,
That's right.
trying to have a career.
That's right.
When you were designed to be free. You were designed to learn from Him and the things that this earth and this life was designed to teach us. And but it's tough to do that when you got when you got to go in and clock in, and you got people that you don't want to be around, and you got a boss that you can't stand. You just hate it.
It reminds me of being on autopilot. That's what it reminds me of. It's the mundane. It's it's that thing, like, you're so used to the same monotony, the same old thing, and you don't get to enjoy living. You don't really, oh, wow, this fresh air feels so good to my lungs. Wow, like, it's so nice to see my husband smile at me. Oh, look at that pretty baby smiling back at me. Like, you don't get to enjoy, like, the beauty of life, because you are always on autopilot. It's like you wake up, it's 5 a.m. You go to the shower, 5:15, you're eating breakfast. You run out the door, because you're running late, because you shouldn't have got up at 5 a.m. in the first place. It should have been 4:45. Right, like, exactly. What I'm saying? Like, this is the story in so many American households, and is and nobody really, and usually, like, actually, I used to get shunned all the time about my entrepreneurial spirit. I've always felt like I love freedom. I love to be free. I love to just, kind of go as I please and come when I want, like, right. And people have always, kind of say, oh, no, but that's not a sure thing. Well, I'm not worried about the sure thing. That's not why I have the desire to be an entrepreneur. It's not because I'm concerned about the sure thing. I love my life and I want to live it. And for me, freedom is in that, like, being able to choose. Right. Well, you know what? It's Monday. I don't have to work today if I don't want to.
Right.
Isn't that a wonderful feeling?
It's a great feeling. That's what we do. That's pretty much what we do. I mean, I know I'll be leaving tomorrow to go on the road, but literally, the thing is, you don't learn. Even if you fail your way to success, but you don't not do your way. You don't not do something your way to success. Meaning that even if I try to start something and it doesn't work, and it fails, I still have the ability. I've still learned a lesson. I've still learned something that I can apply to the next thing. So while people are saying that's too risky, that's too much of a risk to take, realistically, that's how you learn anyway. You don't start walking by not taking a risk of falling. That's right. As a child, that's how you learn how to walk. You took the risk of falling down.
That's right.
And so, but that's how we go. You keep on going, and you got to keep your eyes on people that are actually still walking. Right. Not the people that are still crawling, but the people that are still walking. Because I think that's why children learn how to walk faster, or learn how to walk, period, is because they see us still walking. If adults were crawling, there'd be no need to walk for a child. They wouldn't even try to start walking. They would just crawl around for the rest of their life. Like, we would be crawling around for the rest of our life. That's usually how it goes. We see other people working and crawling for the rest of their life, living paycheck to paycheck and struggling, and we think that that's how you're supposed to do it. Right. Until you see somebody walking, that's who you need to focus in on. Like, they're walking. They're independent. They have their own thing. They have a happy marriage. And I'm going to do a little study about that, because I think people who are entrepreneurs and have been married for the beginning of their relationships. I know I listen to a lot of Robert Kiyosaki, and him and his wife, they started off like that.
Okay.
And they're still together.
That's wonderful.
So my mentor, Same thing. You know, a lot of people who have started off with nothing and they were married, or you know, they got married when they were in the building process. They're still together after the duration, because in that freedom there's so many possibilities, and with possibilities comes the possibility to win and the possibility to lose.
Yeah.
So, but with a relationship, as that woman begins to see the progress and she starts trusting me more, then she'll gain more trust in me, and she'll have a different perspective of me, and that respect will go up from her
Yeah.
to me to a whole nother level.
You better believe it.
I think so. But see, that's the thing. Like, if a man's not progressing at work for 20, 30, 40 years, why would he progress anywhere else
Right. Ooh.
in the relationship? Why? I mean, because he's doing the same thing every day. He's working, going to work, doing what he's supposed to do according to the American dream. And
Right.
he's coming home doing what he's supposed to do every day according to the American dream. And then women wondering why there's no excitement, why things are still the same, why there's no progression. But the one thing about being an entrepreneur is every day is different. Some days it's feasting, and some days it's famine. But every day you're progressing. You can it's measurable change. It's measurable growth, because you can look at where we started and you can see where we are. Now people buy houses and cars and stuff like that, but you can work a job and buy a house and a car. You can work the same job every day for 50 years and have a nice house and a nice car. But it's like, what do we want? What do we want in this relationship, for one thing? But what do we want out of our lives? We just want a nice house and a nice car.
It's not enough for me.
It ain't enough for me. I want freedom, and I want expression.
Hey.
I want the ability to express myself freely, not just like on a podcast, but I mean express myself. Like, I want to go to here. I want to go to London and stay there for a month or two. I want to go to Italy and stay, 6 months. You know what I mean? You can't do that if you got to be to work next week.
Absolutely not.
You can't do that. So that's where creation come in, the ability to create. And men and women both can do that. But I think if the man is in the position and he was designed for work, women, it's a great thing to use that ability, that gift that the Most High has given him, and kind of guide him in that direction so that you guys can grow better together. Because it's kind of like a pit bull, you know what I mean? Like, if you got a pit bull and somebody go in your yard, you let him go on him, because that's what you got him for. You got him to do that. But you have to kind of lead them in the right direction. And men, it's the same thing. Like, a woman will help facilitate that change and that progression as long as you're leading her in the right direction. She'll make it easier and a little bit more comforting to make the transition and to be independent and to depend on the Most High, as opposed to depending on the corporation that you're working for.
That's right.
Because you literally will only depend on the Creator when you become independent, and your own set of skills, of course.
Right.
But that's what creates that independence mindset, and that's what creates the ability to progress in life, but it also can mimic that and progress the relationship.
That's right.
So a lot of people have been talking about, well, we need to start a business, we need to do this, we need to do that, and you guys never do it. You just get stuck in the mundane, and you wonder why you guys have not progressed in the relationship, because you guys have not progressed in the work aspect. And that work aspect that the man leads in, the woman will begin to move towards that and gravitate towards that and become a better helper and fulfill that necessity in a man. So
that's right.
That's the basic needs of a man, and the desires of a woman is what, Christina?
Oh, we got some. Well,
I think we kind of touched on with the leadership and with the man just being in a man progressive position.
That's it, leadership. You have a good, strong leader. You'll kind of know where you're going, and I think we get really nervous when we don't feel like we know where we're going, when we don't,
That's when y'all try to take that position.
Yeah, that's exactly when we do it. And, because, that's it, security. Leadership provides us with security, and security is like one of the number one things women want and need.
Right.
It gives us this handle on, not more control, but just more of a handle on life. Like we just understand, okay, I can close my eyes and sleep in the back seat of this car and allow this man to drive, and I trust him. If that makes any sense.
Oh, it makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, that leadership is very important. And also, we kind of hit on effective communication and all that good stuff, but all of that goes in with a good leader. I think a good leader knows how to effectively communicate. I think a good leader also knows how to give affection to women, because we love affection. A good leader is going to notice when when we're feeling a lack thereof. you know I think basically, if we can have a good leader, we'll have all of those little things, like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, we'll feel that safety, and love. And we'll have like the feeling of trust in that relationship. We'll have all of those things when we have a great leader.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess the desire aspect, because I don't even know if that's even necessarily something that people know they need. I don't think people know they think they need leadership, because that's what
I
I'm saying.
don't.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, a woman has a lot of needs, to security and all those things, but those come in a package deal with leadership.
With leadership,
Yeah.
exactly. That
So,
was
but if a
well
woman's not receptive to being led and being quote unquote ruled according to the scriptures, and not, and another thing, like the submission thing, because a lot of women have a problem with that submission word, but like, we're all submitted at the end of the day. There's just a structure, you know what I mean? If I'm a woman, I've noticed that women don't like that word, obviously, but I've noticed that women don't mind submitting as long as the man is submitting worthy. So if she feels as though he's worthy of submitting, and he takes that position, like, I'm leading us somewhere, come on, let's go. Either you're gonna come or you not. Get in the car.
Well, firstly, I'm not going to submit to a weak man, and I'm certainly
Right.
not going to submit to an abuser.
Of
So
course not.
that word itself can be a dirty word to us
Right.
women who have been in abusive relationships,
Right.
who've had using type men who are little boys, who are not grown, who don't know how to handle their own job and have their own house and have their own car. They want your car, and they put the hand in
Right.
your purse, and they try to take your money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so women have been through a whole lot. So for that word, to them, it can be a very dirty word. But now, when you have a good man, who is a great leader, lead me. Lead me, baby. I will follow you wherever you want me to go.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Because it's like, that person has your best interest at heart. He'll never do anything for anything to.
That's easier said than done, though, for pretty much most women nowadays in this particular society that we live in, because there's so much influences that's telling women to not do it, and how their lives ended up as a result of them submitting to a man. And so it kind of creates this idea in a lot of women that you just can't trust a man.
Right.
But I think that's why I created this podcast, because if the man is right, the relationship will be right, and you'll start seeing the results. But and it's deep, and I know we're kind of like going on. We're like at an hour already, and I don't feel like we even scratched the surface of this particular topic. But I guess, do you see like how a lot of this stuff is so much deeper than just, we just don't get along?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's so much deeper than that, because then you got to figure out, like, is it because of your job? Is it because of the time we've invested? Is it because now I have outside influences that are changing my perspective? So you got all these different aspects, and you got all these different facets that add to any dynamic of the relationship, and it's very important. One thing before we get out of here is, I would tell my woman that we're gonna create our own garden. And in this garden, we're going to have the things that we want. We're going to have the apple trees and, the mangoes and the dragon fruit. And we're going to have some grapes over here. The things that we like. But what we got to do is we got to make sure that we keep that serpent out, because that serpent is going to plant something in our garden that's going to cause us to lose this garden. So we got to make sure we guard and protect this garden. And mainly, he came after the woman. He came through the woman by influencing her to look at something a different way than the original intent.
Right. Right.
So, but the man's job is to keep that woman focused on the original intent, the original thing that we decided to do.
Okay.
And not allow that serpent in to persuade and to dissuade her to believe and seeing things totally different, to where now she's off and I'm off. As a result of my love and affinity for her. I don't want to lose her, so I'm gonna probably do something that I know I don't want to do.
Yeah. I know us ladies, like, we tend to allow our relatives, our friends to kind of tell us what to do in our relationships. And I think that it's so important that, and I think for men and women, I think it's very important to keep your relationship sacred. You know, that relationship is your relationship. Your mama and your daddy and your sister and your brother, your neighbors, they don't need to know everything that is going on. The going on is what's yours and your mates, period. And I think that if we did not involve so many people, we would have such a better relational experience. And unfortunately, we tend to overshare. And we're in that kind of society. If you look on Facebook, if you look on Instagram, I mean, we're constantly oversharing. Like, I know people have to think, dang, I wish I could erase that information. Man, I was just ranting, whatever the case may be.
I kind of feel like that with this episode. No, I think I rambled a little bit, but I was trying to tie it all in, because it's not as easily as just, oh, you guys are having, and that's why, like, a lot of the relationship people that you guys that you'll see on Instagram and Facebook and all that kind of stuff, they'll just be very like specific about this issue, but it's more of a patch up. I'm trying to cure. I'm going for a cure. I'm not going for patch ups. I mean, patch ups are good, but you're gonna have to keep patching it up for the rest of your life unless you go through and you cure it. And that's what we're doing here at Relationships and Chill. We're looking for cures. We're trying to cure the relationship cancers of the world that causes divorces and causes abuse. And we're trying to work to help people develop and build great relationships that last a long time, and they can pass this stuff on to their children. So that's the perspective that we're working on here at Relationships and Chill. We're trying to make this thing. We trying to solve problems. We want to solve problems and not patch problems. So when you come here, we're another thing, we're getting better. We're getting better. Every episode, I feel you guys let us know this episode. I know it's kind of all over the place, but ultimately, what I'm ultimately saying, just to summarize it, is just to say that men were designed to be one thing, women were designed to be another thing. If we work together, we can complement each other and we can get things done. But if we combat and we compare and we try to compete against each other, we'll only stay in the same position that we're in, and we'll never progress. We'll never get past our problems. And the problem that you're having, the problem that I'm having, is similar. If we can work together to come to a similar solution, then we can similarly grow together and progress to the next phase and to the next phase. And we use this platform and we use this way of doing things to continuously progress us, and we help other couples that are struggling with similar issues, and we build a community of people that are trying to progress and help other people have great relationships too. And that's what Relationships and Chill is all about. This progression, making relationships great again. That's what we do. That's what we're about. So let us know how you guys feel about this. How you guys, what do you guys think about this? I know it's a lot of a little bit all over the place, but I hope you guys got something out of it. And Christine Latrice, you got anything you want to?
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to thank all the listeners. Thank you guys for welcoming us into your homes, into your office spaces, into your workout zones. We just really appreciate you. for listening in. And just like our Anthony said, we're here to solve your problems. And, not just the deepest ones, just your, even your daily problems that you might have. And, please reach out to us. And give us ideas, tell us your stories. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again.
Well, I guess that about do it. Christina Lynn, where they can find you at?
All right, you guys can always find me on Instagram. I am Caviar's Queen. And again, I'm working on the website, so as soon as I can get that information for you guys, I surely will do that.
Right, we working out. We starting out and we working. We working
That's
around the
right.
clock to make sure you guys have avenues to contact us and ask your questions and give us your suggestions so that way we can actually answer more specifically. But I try to create a general idea of how things work to kind of help give a framework for how to look at things. And then a lot of it will eradicate itself if you start looking at it in a different perspective, because really all it is a matter of perspective. So once you change your perspective, you'll change the results. And so that's what we do here. We change results. We get results. So if you have any questions or concerns, you can go ahead and contact me at contact@relationshipsandchill.com. That's our email address. And also Instagram, you can hit me up on a message, and all of it will be confidential unless you say it's okay for me to talk about it or whatever. But I will answer your question to you directly. And you can catch us on Facebook. We're going to be having a Facebook group also, so you guys are welcome to join that. And at Relationships and Chill on Facebook, Relationships and Chill TV on YouTube, Instagram at Relationships and Chill. Like I said, contact at relationshipsandchill.com is where you can email us. And I think that's all I got for today's show. I'm gonna probably come back with a part 2 of this, but I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. And I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.
We out.
Thanks for listening to Relationships and Chill. For more information on cultivating the relationship of your dreams, please follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Relationships and Chill, or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Relationships and Chill TV. You can also visit our website at www.relationshipsandchill.com. Together, let's make relationships great again.